Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome to $3 Theater, and this is my series Real Board, where I just kind of talk about a movie that I've seen recently that I like. It could be something that is older that I just kind of caught up with again. It could be something new that it just happened to drop, but I just kind of want to have these like stream of consciousness videos about a movie that speaks to me in any kind of real particular way. And I want to talk today about Luca, the new film, the new Pixar film released by Disney over on Disney Plus. And of course, the release of this movie being the third film to roughly drop on Disney Plus since the pandemic has been a bit of a thing with some animators over at Pixar. They haven't been too happy with this. This is one that they wanted people to experience in theaters. And I'm not going to lie, I feel this is one that should be experienced in a theater, although it's only playing right now at one theater, and that is the El Capitan Theater on Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles. So if you are in the LA area and you want to go see Luca in theaters, you got one option, at least for right now, although I'm sure it's going to play as long as they want it to. This movie, I'm not going to lie, when I first saw the trailer for it, it didn't really wow me as much as I thought it would. You know, it looked very simple. It looked very clean. It looked very Charlie Brown-esque to me. And it didn't necessarily jump out at me as something that I wanted to see, but I knew I was going to watch it because it's Pixar, it's Disney Plus, and I have kids. I have a 3-year-old and almost a 2-year-old. And over the course of the last few days since this movie came out, I've watched it at least 7, 8 times. Not bored with the film whatsoever. In fact, I would love to spend more time in this world. And the reason why has a lot to do with the fact that I just like how warm and inviting and accepting this particular world is. And that's actually a big part of, I think, the theme of the movie, at least towards the end, and as well as a lot of just kind of how they approached this. Enrico Casarosa, who is the director, he also did the short film La Luna for Disney, and that was actually a really cool short film. Again, very much Italian themes and everything else. Fishermen trying to capture the moon. It's a cute little short film, and it's one that this one borrows heavily in regards to style. You can feel the DNA crossover between the two. And this movie is based upon Enrico's life as a child in Genova, Italy. Even though this takes place in, what is it, Porta Rossa is the name of the small city, small Italian village in the early 1960s, which is when this whole thing takes place. And you know, it's about his life as a kid and some of the stuff, you know, he did with his friends and everything else. And I just found the movie to be very warm and very inviting. And I think Jacob Tremblay did a great job as Luca. I think Dylan Grazer did a fantastic job as Alberto. And I really liked Julia, played by, I think Emma Berman is her name. She is a relatively unknown actress, but she comes at this with enough punch and enough power, I think, to kind of steal almost every scene she was in. Sure, the movie was called Luca, and it's about a sea monster who can go to the surface and change into a real boy, whatever. But she is able to come at it and really kind of mix the Western accent, not really having much of an accent, but really when they need to punch up the Italian, she is able to actually really kind of play that off and pull that off. And I really liked it. I thought her performance was fantastic, very believable. And like I said, I felt earlier I'd mentioned that I kind of got some Charlie Brown vibes out of this one. And I think really in this particular case, Julia comes across as Lucy from Peanuts minus being a sociopath, right? She's just not Lucy, but she kind of embodies, I think, like, just I got a bit of a vibe out of that one. You know what I mean? Or maybe an amalgamation of this kind of characters. But also this movie was heavily influenced by Miyazaki films, Studio Ghibli films. And parts of the animation was actually inspired by some of Ghibli's films, which is really funny because they put out the first CG movie called Earwig and the Itch, or In the Witch, or whatever it was. It's on HBO Max. It's really not good for like the first 90% of the movie. And then it picks up and then it's over. It's really weird. I wouldn't really recommend it, or maybe I just need to watch it again. And who knows, maybe I'll do one of these videos talking about it if I do, because I want to remain positive. So again, the story, what I love about the story of this movie is that it's simple. It's just simple, right? Both Alberto and Luca, they find each other, right? Luca is, very kind of sheltered by his parents. They don't want him going out beyond the, going anywhere near the land monsters because they don't want to be hunted and killed. And Luca's afraid of the land monsters. He's afraid to even really bring them up because if he does, his parents shut them down. Alberto, on the other hand, was abandoned by his father a long time before. So we have no idea how long he had been alone, but you can tell you have one boy who is overprotected, oversheltered, helicopter parents seeking a way to break free, to find himself. And then you have a more free spirit who is just seeking some kind of normalcy and is some kind of acceptance and ultimately some kind of family. And that, of course, is one of the things we see in regards to his relationship with Massimo, Giulia's father, who I really enjoyed his character, although it was kind of like watching an Italian version of the dad from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, James Caan's character. So there's a bit of that. But ultimately, I still really enjoyed Massimo's character. And I like that, he was missing an arm and he says that, he's like, oh, he's like a sea monster ate it. And they're like, and he's like, no, I was born this way. I came into the world this way. So basically trying to showcase that sometimes you're born different. Now, I know a lot of people out there are trying to argue that this movie is like chock full of queer coded messaging and that it's Pixar's first like LGBTQ film. I'm going to disagree on that one because Enrico has very much stated that that's not the case. It has been asked of him multiple times. He has come out and he said that's not the case at all. It's very reflective of his childhood. And I think, and I get why people would say that, because there's a somewhat of a reference here, somewhat of a connection to a movie called Call Me By Your Name, starring Armie Hammer and who's the other guy? Timothée Chalamet. And it's about, a 24-year-old man and a teenager getting into an affair one summer in Italy. And people just kind of saw this movie and associated it with that movie, which really says more about them than it says about that. I don't even know. I didn't see any of that. And I've watched the movie now 7-8 times. I've seen it a bunch. I'll probably watch it again in the morning with my kids because they really like it. Now, one thing I found to be fascinating about this, again, the story is very simple. The concept is the boys want a Vespa so they can go and see the world, right? They want to get their means of transportation. They want to get their means of escape. And as a result of that, they need money. And so they have to enter into this Porta Rossa Cup that Giulia wants to enter into in order to stop Ercole. Ercole, which, by the way, that took me a long time to remember that guy's name. They keep saying it, but they say it so fast, and it's like, they're like, oh, Ercole, and, he's a total dick. But it's great that the villain in the movie is not trying to take over the world or do whatever. He's just a prick who wants to win this race for the 6th year in a row. And he's very much a jerk and everyone's afraid of him. Right. So it's very much like David versus Goliath with these 3 kids versus this guy who's also trying to hunt sea monsters, not because he's afraid of them, but because he wants to simply win the prize. His motivation is very much apparent. And it's one that's interesting to see because it doesn't require much thought. You get it right away. You see this guy and you're like, this guy's a dick. And from there, you want to see him lose. And I really enjoyed at the end of the movie when he's in the process of, looking like he might harpoon Alberto or Luca. And it is Giulia that she's wants to destroy his empire of injustice by ramming her bike into him and stopping him from winning the race, which goes back to an earlier part in the movie where she was like, I'm going to be the one to take him down. And she ultimately was. And that was really cool. Because this guy was a jerk. He did hold other people back. He kept other kids in fear. And you know what? 3 kids stood up to him and ultimately won the day. And that part was actually pretty cool. Again, it's also standing up to bullies and acceptance and being who you are, things like that, which I understand why the LGBTQ community definitely can see the connection that they're trying to make here. But it's also a theme that's universal. It's very much universal. So I think that's one that a lot of people can kind of get behind and use as motivation to look at and just go, yeah. I want to stand up to injustice. I want to stand up to bullies. And I think that that's something that a lot of people out there are going to get behind. So I really enjoyed the story. Again, very simple, very straightforward. You don't have to think much about it. But what I loved was just the world. It felt warm. It felt inviting. It felt like a place you'd want to go visit. And I've always wanted to go to Italy. It'd be very cool to go and see one of these types of cities. So it'd be pretty cool to see. I just love the way the animation looks. It's so different from other Pixar films. And it comes across like something like, some people I've seen kind of compare it to like The Good Dinosaur, but good. And the thing is, The Good Dinosaur may not be Pixar's best movie, but the more you watch it, you start seeing again how kind of simple it is, how structured it is, and how it's playing on certain themes and tropes from Westerns. This one is just about a movie about kids being kids. And that is not something that I think we get as often anymore in the way that really kind of just speaks to the heart of being a kid. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed Luca as much as I did. And I have a feeling Disney's going to capitalize on this. I wouldn't be surprised if there were like more short films, or if there were, some other Pixar little one shots here and there that kind of tie back into this world. Because I think given the events of 2020 and given the past year and a half and just how life has been for so many people, this was just kind of a breath of fresh air. It's not a horror movie. It's not a superhero movie. It's not a world ending event movie or an extinction level event type film. It's just a very simple, straightforward story about two wayward souls, both on the different ends of a spectrum in regards to overparenting, underparenting, but they're both still alone, and they find each other and they have a very simple goal. They just want to get a scooter, a Vespa, and get the hell out of town and go and see the world. That's ultimately what they want. But through the course of the film, you start to realize, wait, well, Luca wants knowledge, and Alberto wants a family, and they both get what they want in the end, and it works out for both of them. And of course, if you watch the movie and you watch through the end credit sequence, the end credits show like a flash of just kind of life with Luca and Julia at school, as well as Alberto and Massimo and Luca's parents, and I really enjoyed how that montage played out at the end. I really enjoyed how that whole thing came to be, because to me, it felt like it was just kind of giving us like another chapter, like an epilogue in the story, just told through still images. And it was very powerful enough to watch and enjoyable. And then there's a post-credit scene with Sacha Baron Cohen, right? And he played Uncle Ugo, who had like one scene in the movie, really two if you count this one, but he was really great in that one scene that he was in. And he's in the deep, and he's talking to himself, or he's talking to a fish, and he probably thinks that the fish is Luca, but it's a goatfish that was mentioned in the very beginning of the movie. His name was Enrico, which is the name of the director. And when Luca is getting all the goatfish and he's hurting them, one of them, I forget who, I think it's Giuseppe, whatever, says like, what, you want to be like your buddy, your buddy Enrico, who went missing, who went out. He could be out in the world enjoying things, or he could be dead. And that comment was very much something that came from his mother, who I felt, by the way, Maya Rudolph did a fantastic job playing the mom. I always loved Maya Rudolph. Jim Gaffigan as the dad was also pretty great, albeit relatively simple, and it could have kind of been anyone. I didn't really feel like it was Jim Gaffigan, but I did feel that it was Maya Rudolph. But then again, Mitchell's versus the Machines just came out, and she was in that one as well. So it is kind of close together on that particular front. But at the end of the day, I felt that Luca was just a fun film to watch, and one that was just enjoyable and simple. And it's one that my kids really like, and I'm looking forward to watching multiple times, as I do with most Pixar films. So I do want to hear your thoughts on this one. What do you guys think about it? Did you guys agree with some of my points, disagree with some of my points? I want to hear what you liked about the movie. And let me know down in the comment section. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great night. Thank you again, and peace out.